When you look at the whiskeys that comprise the Jack Daniel's family of brands, they all have several things in common. First of all, every drop of Jack Daniel's is produced from the Cave Spring in Lynchburg, Tennessee. The other thing that they have in common is the grain bill. That is corn, malted barley, and rye in the same percentages. Also, all of our whiskeys go through charcoal mellowing at least one time. That's what makes Jack Daniel's a Tennessee whiskey and not a bourbon. The other thing that's unique about Jack Daniel's is that all of our whiskey will go into a barrel that we manufacture for ourselves. So everything that we use is brand new, charred white oak, and we're the only people in the industry today that actually make our own barrels. So that gives us a level of control over what will happen in maturation that many companies won't be able to achieve. Now, once we put Jack Daniel's whiskey into a barrel, it's what we do with it at that point that ultimately decides what type of whiskey it will become in the family of brands. The higher a barrel is located in a warehouse, the hotter it gets and the faster it matures for the days that it's located there. Likewise, the barrels that are located on the ground floor tend to be a little bit cooler and they tend to mature at a slower rate than the barrels that would be at the top. We can actually create a very consistent whiskey by taking barrels that have been matured on the ground floor of some warehouses, the middle floor, and the top floor of other warehouses, and put that together into a batch that you would know as Old No. 7 Black Label Tennessee whiskey. And today that's the #1 selling whiskey in the world. It's bottled at 80 proof, and even though we don't know why Jack called it Old No. 7, that particular whiskey went on to win 7 different gold medals. The most popular way that Jack Daniel's is drunk today is as a Jack and Coke. If you go into bars and you look at the top 10 things that are ordered in the cocktail list today, there's only one of those that would mention a brand by name, and it is the Jack and Coke. Now that was the only whiskey that Jack Daniel's made for 100 years. It was in 1988 that we decided to offer a new whiskey from Jack Daniel's, and ultimately that became known as a product called Gentleman Jack. It's also bottled at 80 proof, and it's the only whiskey today that is charcoal mellowed twice. It gets its first pass in charcoal when it's a new whiskey, after it's distilled and before it goes in the barrel. And then it gets another pass in charcoal after it's been matured in the barrel and right before it's bottled. Gentleman Jack is always going to be our sweetest and lightest, our most refined whiskey. To me, it's just very easy to drink, it's very approachable, it's wonderfully done whiskey. Now, after we introduced Gentleman Jack in 1988, we began to hear from a lot of the Jack Daniel's fans saying that they were really excited to see a new whiskey from us. So it was in 1997 that we introduced a product that became known as Jack Daniel's Single Barrel. It has a bottle proof that would be anywhere from 90 to 94 proof, and it's the only product that is what its name says it is. It's actually product that's taken from one individual barrel. That barrel always comes from the Angel's Roost, which is the highest and hottest location of a warehouse. And what happens in the Angel's Roost is typically that the angel share on the barrel is going to double. It ends up being about 30%, while a typical barrel in another spot in our warehouse might be in the 15 to 16% range. And every one of those barrels literally becomes its own vintage because each barrel has its own unique set of properties.